Hi, it's General Stotts, and I wanted to talk to you in this video about culture. And specifically, I wanted to set a framework up for the next several videos where we're going to talk about our culture and our principles in the 75th Innovation Command. Some of you may have already seen the video podcast that we did where we brought in 4 people who had previously served in organizations, military organizations, civilian organizations that used our principles. And they talked about not only the impact of the principles on those organizations and their successes, but also how each of them had applied the principles in their time, both in the military and outside the military, after they left those organizations. So what is culture? What are we really trying to achieve? Well, sociology studies culture, and they say that culture is a shared set of beliefs, behaviors, language, and expectations that govern personal conduct and interactions between members of the organization or culture and people from other organizations. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to parse this paragraph out a few words at a time. So first of all, it's something that's shared. And it's a shared set of beliefs. It's how we view the world. It's a common view of the operating picture, as it were. It's how we believe the world works. It's behaviors. It's the things that you do to people internal to the organization, and also how you treat and interact with people outside the organization. It's unique language, and I'm already seeing some of the unique terminology creeping its way into common conversation. But our principles, talking about the Parent-Stafford-Peterson principle, it is an example of a common language. And then it's expectations. One of my favorite lines is people say, hey, how do you know, or they ask, how do you know when a culture's taken? And the answer is when people say, hey, we don't do things that way in the 75th, then I know that the culture has taken place. And it's not just how we treat each other, it's also how we interact with people outside of the organization. So that's what culture is. Obviously something very, very important. So, I always say, if you have to kiss the pig, give it all you got. And let me tell you, this little guy here, he is not holding back. He is giving that pig everything. And look, the pig looks happy. Anyway, I'm just saying. So what are the elements of our culture in the 75th Innovation Command? First of all, we select great people. It's hard to have a fabulous culture if you don't have fabulous people, and we select the very, very best people to be part of this command. We all understand, and we apply our values. We use them on a day-to-day basis. We don't just talk about culture. We don't just talk about the principles. You will repeatedly hear other people in the organization referring to the principles and giving specific, concrete applications out in our day-to-day actions. Our principles are simple, they're applicable, and they're desirable. And we're going to talk much more about the principles in the subsequent videos, but I want you to understand that this is a cornerstone. This is the bedrock of our culture in the 75th. We also take pride in our culture, and we take great pains, easy for me to say, to pass it along to newcomers. And also, we've had some people who joined the 75th who were part of it when it was a training support division. Some of those people are departing now. We've also had people that have joined since we started our march to being an innovation command, and some of them are leaving now. But once you're in the 75th, you're always in the 75th. You're always part of the family. And I hope that you take the culture, what you learn and have inculcated from the culture here, and apply it with great success to wherever you go. Tell me about selecting great people. Many of you have gone through our behavioral interview process. So the first thing is we select people who are experts in critical areas. And you can think across the whole spectrum of doctrine and organization, training, material, which is anything physical, leadership, personnel, facilities, all of those areas, and in any way that you're an expert in one of the areas and intersect that, you could be valuable to the 75th. So I think sometimes people very narrowly define expertise as only being in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And although we do have a lot of experts in those areas, and the Army's very interested in getting more of those kind of experts, we also have experts in things like organizational redesign, psychology, and et cetera, a lot of different areas. But we're really looking for truly people who are experts, people who stand head and shoulders above others in their discipline and automatically garner respect. When somebody hears, hey, it's Joe Smith, and they go, oh my gosh, Joe Smith, he is an expert in whatever it is. We try to pick people who are self-starters, who are innovators. That doesn't start, by the by, 2 weeks before the interview process. In all cases, we find that people who are self-starters and innovators started doing it when they were young children and teenagers and young adults. And they have a lifetime and a track record of successfully innovating. By the by, self-starters, innovators tend to be risk takers as well, just not crazy risk takers. Then group catalysts. We try to pick people who, if I drop them into an organization or I drop them into a group setting, and even if they're not in charge, or perhaps especially if they're not in charge, that group is just going to kind of perform better because these people find a way of making connections between other people's ideas, getting people to work together, getting people to work synoptically, looking at the same objectives and goals and valuing the same thing. And they just have a natural ability to do that. And finally, we pick people who genuinely care about and like other people persons. And that can be introverts, that can be extroverts, that can be men, that can be women. It cuts across all of the intersectional boundaries. There are people who genuinely care about and like other people. So let's talk about innovation a little bit. This is a term that causes some confusion. So we're the Innovation Command, so I'd like to make sure that we have a common understanding of this term. When I talk about innovation, I'm talking about the intersection of creativity and productivity. Some of you know that I'm involved in art as a side kind of thing. Yeah, I'm a math science guy, but in terms of hobbies, I do artistic creative things. And one of the things I do is I produce music. Now, no one wants to hear me play a musical instrument. I'm telling you right now, nobody wants to hear that. So I hire session musicians. I compose the music. I hire session musicians to play the music. You run into folks in music in particular, I find, some of whom are wildly creative. They're wildly creative. But if you ask them to go ahead and record a track for you, they can't get from here to there because they get distracted by their own creativity and off they go. And there's no productivity. On the other hand, I grew up in a blue-collar town, and I grew up as a farm kid, and there were folks there who were wildly productive. I mean, they were working, 10, 12, 13, 14 hours a day doing something, but it never crossed over into, I'm going to be wild creative. It crossed over into, I'm going to work. Then there's an old country song, what do you get when you work your fingers to the bone? Bony fingers. Some of you may even know that song, but the bottom line is I'm looking, and we in the command are looking for people who do both things. You're creative and you're productive. You've got albums out there. You've done art shows. You've written books. You write computer models. You do applications. Whatever your creative endeavor is, you've got a track record of actual productivity and doing cool creative things. So how does this all fit together? Well, we in the 75th are not necessarily going to be the generators of ideas. We're not going to create new ideas most of the time. Sometimes we will. Most of the time, though, 90+%, we're going to have to work with all kinds of people because we're going to be asking them to share their ideas with the Army and the DoD. And to do that, all those different kinds of people need to trust us. We also have to understand the Army and the innovation areas. We have to be able to translate between those worlds. And finally, we're going to have to work very, very hard on tight timelines, and that means to be a nurturing environment. Let's talk about our culture and in each one of these things. When we talk about the kind of people we want people persons, people that other people tend to trust. We want people who are group catalysts, also people who people tend to trust. Understanding the Army and innovation areas, what does that have to do? That has to do with expertise, right? That has to do with expertise and the ability to translate between those worlds and also to be credible in both of those worlds. And then working on very, very hard, tight timelines. How does this relate again to our culture? It relates to our culture in that it has to be a nurturing environment. If we're going to do well in these kind of tight timelines and high-stress environments, we need people who are going to get along with one another, going to legitimately, genuinely care and support one another. All right, bonus, just for watching the video this long, secret to a happy life. I bet you didn't think you were going to get that in this video, but that's just the kind of guy that Rich Stotts is. So, here we go, secret to a happy life. This is a sad Rich Stotts. Now, on the other hand, that's a happy Rich Stotts. That is also a happy Rich Stotts. So what's the difference between those things? Well, in each case, you see that there's two circles. There's two circles here, two circles here, two circles here. I happen to fill in the inner circle with different levels of smiley faces. But so in this particular case, in all cases, this outside circle represents the things that you care about. And the inside circle represents the things that you feel like you have control over. If there's a big gap between what you care about and what you feel you can influence, that's going to make you happy. So there's two things you can do. You can either decrease the things that you worry about, or you can increase your feeling of control in your life, or you can do both. By the by, notice that I'm using feeling terms. Things you're worried about, not things that you should worry about or things you should be concerned about or things you've been assigned to be responsible for, but these are the things that you have taken upon yourself to feel concerned about, and this is how much you feel you can influence those things. So some of it has to do with letting things go. So things that are out in this area where you clearly understand that you cannot control them, you don't worry about it. Do the best you can with the things that you can control, and you got to let the rest of that stuff go. There are a lot of other people in the world who are responsible for some of the things you're worried about, and you need to let them do a good job doing it. On the other hand, you can take actions to become more responsible, more effective, and have a larger span of control and reach in terms of your influence, your positive influence on the world. So I would say, in summary, you have two choices. You can either take charge or let it go. If we were live, there's a little exercise I do associated with this, but that's the secret to a happy life. So I want people in the 75th Innovation Command and friends of the 75th to focus on the things that you actually can control. And I don't want you to worry about things that are well beyond your capacity to influence. All right, so here's a quick practical exercise for the end. I don't want to go too long, but I want you to think about this in light of our culture, and then I'm going to stop the video, and you can think about this, and you can give me responses back in the comments. So, one of your brothers or sisters from the 75th says that he or she's having problem passing the APFT, or soon to be the ACFT, our new PT test. You are a PT superstar. You hear this lament, but all that you're thinking about, your thought bubble is you're going to go back and play in your Xbox, and you're going to have a third helping of that chocolate cake. And then, in the back of your head, the image of me appears, and I appear to be unhappy. What should you do? And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching the video. I really appreciate those of you who are part of the 75th Innovation Command and our friends of the 75th who are watching this, and I'll look forward to seeing you in future videos. Have a great day.